Hey, welcome to part 3 of the God of War commentary, folks. And now we're heading into the next section of Athens. I think this is either Athens itself or the road to Athens. Look at the nipple lady here, and I kind of like how Kratos' first course of action when he sees this mystical hologram is to cop a feel.
Somehow I think they didn't have the character's design in mind when they animated this scene. And then
Star Wars would be a very different film. Like everyone sees the Emperor Palpatine hologram, and they reach below. Yeah, what are you doing?
How come we had holodecks back then, but we don't now?
The road to Athens.
when I brought up the Greek mythology part of this as a relevant detail when it comes to the nudity aspects, I wasn't just doing that out of nowhere, because I noticed when I gave Dante's Inferno a try way back in the day that the nudity just felt wrong to me without that thematic backing to it, and there wasn't really any more of it in Dante's Inferno than there is in this game. It just didn't seem to make sense in context,
Again, where do you cross the line between being accurate to the times or just overcompensating for an error that you don't know much about besides historical documents?
Well, for one thing, Dante's Inferno is basically edgy the hedgy, serious business.
Dante,
trash.
I love Dante's Inferno. Are you talking about the video game or the actual story? Because the actual
the video game.
But because I love the original Dante's Inferno story because it's the first recorded instance that I can think of self-insert fan fiction. It's amazing. Dante's like, oh man, I'm gonna hang out with this really cool old poet who's dead, and I'm gonna go to hell, and everybody I hate's in hell and suffering horribly and dead.
Yeah, that's basically how self-insert fanfiction written by the worst of fanfiction writers always works.
But he gets critical acclaim when he does it.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, they do that same thing with all the fictional characters in whichever franchise that they don't like. So, you'll always see people bashing Ron Weasley, because everyone thinks Ron Weasley in the books is exactly the same as in the movies. Spoiler alert, he's not. But,
By the way, this model of Ares is a goddamn football player. I hate this model of Ares. It's so much. It's so low poly.
Well,
looks ridiculous.
It's supposed to be really far away, but that doesn't hide the fact that
But he's
bad.
so huge.
Yeah.
yeah.
What was
yeah.
what was with the laugh track?
Because something funny happened to the Athens. Yeah.
Something funny happened on the way to the forum.
Yeah. Well, on the way to Ares.
Yeah. Where's Dom
This one
DeLuise?
sucks a dick. Worst room of the game right here. So you have to use your newly acquired Medusa's gaze to freeze one of these minotaurs on top of a switch to get that gate to open to the north. They even give you an infinitely respawning magic chest at the top right there. It'll never run out. But this is a bit finicky because you gotta remember that the petrification is not immediate. So you have to time it so that the minotaur is walking towards the button and hope to God you freeze it in time on top of the button. If not, yeah, you're wasting a lot of time here. But yeah, there's that infinite chest right there. And this is what you do. Luckily, you do auto-aim with Medusa's gaze out, so you don't have to worry about tilting the analog stick in any direction. It's just that, it's what happens most of the time. You miss, nothing happens. And then I gotta waste more time opening this goddamn chest and try it again.
Yeah, this is not my favorite section in the series.
Can't I just put the chest on the Switch?
I think the later games don't have puzzles that hold you up this way. Oh, god damn it.
This is the only time in the game we were required to do this.
Yeah,
Can't you pick him up and then put him on the chest, Zelda style?
No.
No.
I mean, put him on the Switch. Sorry, my bad.
Just push him.
Like the Dark
you
Choose,
break 'em in half.
unfortunately, no.
Okay, so this is the beginning of my selective editing because, folks, the road to Athens, you're just going in a house. I mean, this is all optional what I'm doing here. You can raid pretty much every house on the road to Athens and get a treasure of some form. Red Souls, Gorgonite,
Which
Phoenix Feathers.
is impressive in its own way, considering the time
Yes.
that this was released, but it's also not fun to watch in the slightest.
And I do want to get as many treasures as I can so that I max out on health and magic as early as possible. But again, not very fun to watch.
Also,
So
I like how God of War solved the Devil May Cry sucks at platforming problem by just giving Kratos a really floaty double jump. Like, not even bothering to make it look cool. Just give him a really, really floaty double jump and let him go wherever he wants. Yeah, I know. It's just... I came into this game almost exactly after playing Devil May Cry, so the jump kind of stuck out.
The ancient Grecian double jump.
Devil May Cry has a double jump, but usually you have to earn it. And
it's also mapped to the triangle button. Why?
Oh yeah, well, initially anyway. Not in the HD edition, thank God.
Yeah, and it's better for it.
But even when you do double jump, you basically have no forward motion when you're jumping. Like Kratos jumps with the same forward momentum that he has when he's when he's actually running, whereas Dante just cuts his speed in half and jumps high instead of far, which is great for combat, but horrible for the kind of platforming challenges Devil May Cry 1 tried to have.
All these people are just going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Or, sorry,
Yeah,
oh my god, oh my
seriously,
god, oh my
like,
god, oh my god, oh my god.
These guys are not even trying to preserve their own life. They're just running in circles.
Yeah, pro tip, people. Don't run anywhere within 12 feet of Kratos, because odds are he's going to try and do a quick time event finisher, and you're going to be too close, and he's going to quick time event finish you. And I love how that's programmed in, because it basically means Kratos doesn't care that he fucked up. He started it, he's going to finish it.
Do you get any sort of penalty for killing these random civilians?
No.
No, you get health.
No, you get health.
Oh, then,
No.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, then.
I
mean, that's ultimately why they're there. But it also makes you wonder, like, oh, guys, don't you care a little bit for yourselves?
Yeah, you know, if this guy weren't being written to have some kind of tragic, angsty backstory, I could totally be down with that kind of senseless fun, but again, dissonance.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know, I feel like it might have been more acceptable if you were killing them regardless of the penalty, because there's a Wii rail shooter. Well, it was also in the arcades, but the version I played most was the port to the Wii, called Ghost Squad, and it's made by Sega. It's one of the most stupid but awesome rail shooters ever. You're basically going around and shooting people in black costumes, but eventually hostages will pop out and they'll shout in these really terrible voice acting, "I'm not a terrorist!" So when me and my cousin used to play the game, we'd shoot them anyway because it's just funny. And we'd get a score penalty, but who gives a shit, because we were having fun. But It kind of feels different when you feel like you're supposed to be. It's not breaking the rules kind of fun. It's kind of like, oh, I'm murdering innocent people for no good reason. It's different. I don't know.
Stay back! Get away from me!
Why is she running?
Why did that need a pre-rendered cutscene?
Because it's Kratos.
Because
if I saw him, I'd run.
Okay, late PlayStation 2 games had this problem where their cutscenes would be just a little too much. Yeah, that happens a lot in this series. Where, you know, Kratos either scares the living daylights out of someone and they get themselves killed trying to avoid them, or he just flat out kills them because they're in the way.
Normally when Link does this, they're in chests, but they're in people in my game.
Oh, man. We're getting all Dark Souls up in here. It's a funny thing about the beginning of Dark Souls is that you start out in a prison cell, and someone throws a corpse in. And without the context of going through the game and figuring out the story, what you think is that they're throwing another zombie into the same cage to imprison them with you. But the zombie just happens to have the key to your cell on it, which is dumb. But as you go through the game, you start to realize that all of the items are either on a corpse or in a box. And the guy threw the corpse down there because for some stupid reason, the key couldn't exist without being attached to a corpse. So it was the guy's way of rescuing you. It's very strange, and that right there just kind of really sets the tone for what Dark Souls is in terms of narrative stuff.
Now, I hate the shield mooks in this game in particular, because the only way you can destroy their shields is by doing a specific combo, or pretty much any square triangle combo that ends with triangle, because that'll break the shields. And the problem is that they're shield mooks, and shield mooks can interrupt your combos. So it's like there's not really a safe way to deal with them without taking too much damage. I feel it could have been better designed to deal with them without having to risk getting hurt.
Man, you know, constantly seeing your character rush up to enemies and do grabby finishers is making me think of Other M in a most tragic way right now. Because it's basically this kind of gameplay.
Tragic.
It's basically this kind of gameplay with a shooting element. And, you know, that could be fun if they didn't do the whole control thing and all of that stuff.
I still don't get why you couldn't just... The thing that bothers me the most about Other M is
there's
not being
no...
able to refill your health.
The story as it goes, and I'm not entirely sure how accurate this is, but as I heard it, Sakamoto basically just stuck to his guns on the control aspect, no matter how much Team Ninja told him it was a bad idea. But, you know, he was in charge, so, you know, the boss man says something, it stays.
Why do I have to play 3/4 of the game at, like, 10% health? I that's the only thing I really hated about Other M is that you couldn't just find health pickups. You had to constantly tilt the Wiimote in this really awkward way to refill your health, but not all the way, just to the 1/10 point until you got to a save room. That was the one gameplay thing about Other M that really kind of grinded my gears.
What do you think, Ares? Ares?
So I've
Just not paying
not
attention
been
to me.
paying too much attention to the plot because obviously we just want to fuck Ares up because reasons, right? That's the plot.
Because revenge.
Yeah, it's a
That's-
revenge plot.
That's
yeah.
everything Kratos does, is revenge.
Kratos.
We're not playing Tales of Symphonia. This is
Kratos, sorry. Yeah, because, like, no matter what the situation, well, except for Dad of War, but we'll get to that when we have a nice, boring section to fill with a tangent. Every game in the current God of War series, Kratos wants revenge for something or other. Whether it's
To be fair, the gods kind of deserve it. So.
well, yeah,
Well-
but that would, but that doesn't make it any less really
No, I would
repetitive.
say it's... I mean, with some exceptions, everything is pretty much Kratos' fault.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the gods don't deserve it, because they're assholes, for the most part.
Well, in the context of God of War...
No,
No,
in
they're
the
assholes.
context of Greek mythology.
Greek mythology, yeah, in Greek mythology, I agree. But in God of War, with because God of War 1, 2, and 3 are all one giant story.
Well,
One leads to the other.
no, I'm going to say 2 and 3 are one giant story. 1 has an ending which God of War 2 decides to ignore. And like it's not a case where this is a game that is self-contained. More power to it for that, because it avoids that problem of sequel baiting. But
I know what you're getting at, but the events of 1 do set up 2.
yeah,
I mean, whether or not they had it planned that much,
retroactively, but the ending of 1 also says that Kratos serves as the god of war until the end of time, and shows all these different time periods as he's ruling as the god of war, implying that nothing goes wrong after that point.
Yeah, but that was just Kratos' fanfic on Zanga. So, I mean, who is to say we can really trust him?
I guess it's kind of like how The Hobbit was intended to be a standalone story. Well, can stand as a standalone story, but it does set up stuff for the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's
I
like
guess.
only the adaptations of The Hobbit that stop at the end and dwell on the ring, because they know what's going to happen, but the actual book does not do that.
Now, do you have to fight? Is God of War one of those games where you have to kill all the enemies to make like a magical barrier? Oh, okay, yes, it is. All right.
Yeah.
Just look at the screen, please.
Sometimes,
Not all the
yes.
time, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not as heavy as later games in the genre would be about this kind of thing. And in fact, I think later God of War games are better about disguising their magic barrier moments with actual scripted sequences that keep you in one place, rather than just erecting a red energy wall in your path, which is something that I appreciate, I will say. But it's no Devil May Cry 4, and it pains me to say it because Devil May Cry 4 is one of my favorite action games ever, in spite of its problems. But one of the most consistently annoying things about that game is that it's always cutting away. That is the most hilarious. You dropped like a fucking rock into that pit. But
It's all this armor.
Devil May Cry 4 is obnoxious about cutting away into this is where the curse war is forming, and now you have to stop and fight cutscenes that take like 3 seconds at a minimum every time they happen, with a really slow fade to black, and then a fade into the scene, and then the curse wall forms, and then there's another slow fade to black, and then you fade back into the fight. You would not. That does not sound particularly torturous when I say it like that, but you would not believe how much it wears on you over the long haul of the game.
It sounds clunky as shit.
Yeah,
It is clunky as shit.
It is incredibly clunky, and they somehow managed to make it clunkier than the other Devil May Cry games, which before that point basically did the same thing, but somehow managed to not feel quite as long-winded about it. Possibly because it didn't happen as frequently.
Man, it's a good thing that I, as a mortal, can defy the laws of physics.
Yeah, he's not a god yet, so.
Why'd you leave that chest, John? Why'd you leave?
Because he doesn't need it.
It is unfortunate people give Devil May Cry 4 as much shit as they do, or did at the time of launch, more than anything, because as people came to learn over the long haul, the actual combat mechanics were deeper than they were given credit for, particularly when it came to Nero, and it is legitimately one of the best examples of the genre, just in terms of pure mechanics. It just has a very lackluster campaign attached to those mechanics.
Now, I am doing this part of the game a little backwards. Because at this point, the stage branches off into 2 pathways. You have to do both to proceed with the story, but one clearly needs to be done before the other one, but you can backtrack it.
What the fuck happened with...
I don't know what happened. I think he just fell backwards.
No, Kratos was flopping around like a freaking beached fish. What happened?
No, we're not playing God of War yet.
For the longest time, I thought God of War was like a derisive term on the internet to sort of splice Call of Duty and God of War together as examples of generic mainstream action gaming. But no, it's
just a costume.
It's actually a reference to an actual costume in the God of War games.
Oh, man. There are 2 varieties of harpies. We're seeing the vanilla version right now. You can just immediately kill them with a grab attack. Square to regular attack, triangle to heavy attack, circle to grab enemies. But you can't immediately grab every enemy at once. Sometimes you gotta drain their health to a certain point. And here's a secret little treasure cove of red orbs. But they deliberately put 4 archers on the opposite roof that you can't reach yet to make this section a pain in the ass.
Can you even open the chests?
You can open the chest, but it's like, you gotta hope to God the archers hit the harpies instead of you.
Or kind of lead all their shots.
Yeah. But there's 4 of them, though. I mean, if you lead 1, the other 3 are still gonna get on you. And goddamn, this part takes forever, because I just want to get my red orbs.
It's also a matter of timing, because they do leave you just barely enough time between each volley to open 1 chest. And then promptly take a hail of arrows that would make Boromir proud to your face.
Yeah, he's just standing there on the floor. Get on my level, ass.
Now, is it just the armor that you're wearing, or do you soak up damage like a son of a bitch in this one?
Well, the armor gives you a double the
Okay.
defense.
Yeah.
So if I was regular Kratos there, I'd be pretty close to dying. But that's also why they give you the red and green. I mean, the red and blue chest there too, because they pretty much know you're going to be taking pot shots like a motherfucker from those archers.
Yeah. Oh, man.
The thing is that sometimes you can't always launch Minotaurs with the triangle attack
Because
the
block.
Minotaurs they like to block attacks. And unfortunately, grabbing them with the circle QTE is a bit finicky. If you recall back to the third ever Minotaur I fought in this series, that I was deliberately trying to show off the circle QTE just to show it off. But I pressed the circle button maybe 3 times at close range to the Minotaur, and Kratos just for the life of him could not grab it. It's a little finicky. I chalk it up to like first game of the series. Maybe they just didn't get it right at that point.
Yeah, a lot of the little things I can overlook in the first game of a series because they're just trying
It's
things.
the first game of the series.
Yeah. And
Though I won't be so forgiving for the pacing of God of War.
yeah, well, to be fair, yeah, by this point, we had a decent idea of how to pace an action game of this type. It was a relatively new subgenre, but not entirely new. So, yeah.
That guy's gonna die, isn't he?
No shit.
I think part of the reason the pacing is weird is because the developers were strongly concerned with making the game a single cohesive experience rather than a series of levels, which is impressive in its own way, but also resulted in them having to make concessions to string the areas together.
Indeed, until you have to make one major transition to one area, which doesn't happen often in this. I mean, it only happens one time in this game. And,
Yeah.
we're getting to that pretty soon, but we'll talk about that beginning of next part.